Terror attack in Lower Manhattan kills 8. Slideshow by photo service. New York authorities said Wednesday that the 29-year-old man accused of mowing down pedestrians and cyclists on a Manhattan bike path, killing 8 people, had plotted for weeks before carrying out the attack in the name of the Islamic State. Officials identified the suspected attacker as Sayfullo Saipov, a legal permanent resident of the United States who arrived in the country from Uzbekistan in 2010 through a diversity visa program. They said Saipov was influenced by the Islamic State, also known as ISIS, and its violent tactics after he came to the United States. Saipovleft notes pledging his allegiance to the group, authorities said, though they have not identified any direct connections between Saipov and the organization. These notes were handwritten in Arabic and contained a combination of symbols and words saying, essentially, that the Islamic State would endure forever. John Miller, the deputy New York Police Commissioner for Intelligence and Counterterrorism, said at a news briefing on Wednesday, "He did this in the name of ISIS." Miller said, "He appears to have followed almost exactly to a T the instructions that ISIS has put out in its social media channels on how to carry out such an attack." The information came as authorities continued to explore the violent rampage, which became New York's deadliest terrorist attacks at Sept. 11, 2001. Police say Saipov climbed into a rental truck on Tuesday afternoon and careened down a bike path along the Hudson River, slamming into numerous people before he was wounded by police and taken into custody. Saipov drove southbound at a high rate of speed and appeared to specifically target cyclists and pedestrians, Miller said. Among the 8 people killed were 5 Argentines and 1 Belgian, authorities said. The 2 Americans were from New York City and New Jersey. The victims included 7 men and 1 woman. They ranged in ages from 23 to 48. 12 more people were injured in the attack, some critically, along an extended path of carnage that stretched through Lower Manhattan. The violent route, which remained a crime scene on Wednesday, was strewn with bodies, wreckage and scattered personal items such as purses, backpacks and shoes, resembling similar scenes after attacks in Berlin, London, Barcelona and other places scarred by violence when vehicles were used as weapons. Investigators have spoken to Saipov, who remained hospitalized and in custody Wednesday, but officials declined to publicly reveal what he said. They also continued to scour his background and life for clues, an effort that included carrying out search warrants and interviewing people who knew him. Saipov, a legal permanent resident of the United States, came to the country in March 2010 and lived at times in Florida, Ohio and New Jersey. According to authorities, he had never been the subject of an FBI investigation or a New York police intelligence investigation, Miller said. However, Saipov had been known to authorities, according to a law enforcement official familiar with the current investigation. Saipov's name had surfaced during an earlier Homeland Security probe into some of his friends. Miller seemed to be alluding to that when he said investigators looking into Saipov were not trying to determine how has he touched the subjects of other investigations. What is his connectivity to those people? Miller compared the investigative effort to building out concentric circles that will show that Saipov will have some connectivity to individuals who were the subject of investigation, though he himself was not. New York Gov. Andrew M. Cuomo, D. said authorities believe Saipov was a lone wolf who became radicalized domestically while living in the United States. The evidence shows that after he came to the United States is when he started to become informed about ISIS and radical Islamic tactics, Cuomo said during an appearance on N's New Day earlier Wednesday. "We have no evidence yet of associations or continuing plot or associated plots, and our only evidence to date is that this was an isolated incident that he himself performed." Video from the scene of the attack appeared to capture Saipov jumping out of the wrecked vehicle. brandishing what appeared to be handguns. Some witnesses said he shouted Allahu Akbar, meaning God is great in Arabic. The Islamic State, which has called for supporters to use vehicles as weapons, did not immediately claim responsibility for the New York attack, though its supporters cheered what happened. According to the site Intelligence Group, which monitors extremist activity, the militant group frequently asserts responsibility for attacks, doing so in some cases where there is little clear indication of its involvement. A key difference between this attack and others that have occurred: authorities took Saipov alive, meaning investigators can gain first-hand information from him rather than relying solely on the trail he left behind. The attack may inflame the political debate over immigration and security. President Trump called Saipov an animal and said he was considering sending him to Guantanamo Bay. During remarks Wednesday, Trump called the criminal justice system's handling of suspects a joke and suggested it was too slow and weak. Remarks he made just weeks after federal prosecutors secured the conviction of a New Jersey man who last year planted bombs in Manhattan during another attack. On Wednesday, Trump also tweeted critically about Sen. Charles E. Schumer, DNY, saying that Saipov had entered the country through a diversity visa lottery program he blamed on the senator. Trump pledged to get rid of that program, seizing on it and Schumer as political targets. After Trump repeatedly criticized the visa program, a Department of Homeland Security spokesman confirmed Saipov came to the United States with a diversity immigrant visa. Trump has argued for stricter screening of immigrants, which he said is needed to prevent terrorism, while opponents of his policies have repeatedly gone to court to block his efforts. Uzbekistan was not among the countries named in any version of the president's travel ban, which largely targeted a number of majority Muslim countries and would not have kept out anyone behind deadly terrorist attacks in the United States. Cuomo and New York Mayor Bill de Blasio, D., said Wednesday that neither of them had received a phone call from Trump. Both elected officials said they were not bothered because two senior Trump administration officials had called them, but both also expressed umbrage at what they described as attempts to politicize the attack. The president's tweets, I think, were not helpful, Cuomo said at the briefing Wednesday. I don't think they were factual. I think they tended to point fingers and politicize the situation. In the aftermath of the attack, throngs of New Yorkers went out to celebrate Halloween, with many attending the city's annual parade, which officials extolled as a show of the city's resilience. Police also said New Yorkers would see a beefed-up law enforcement presence in the coming days. Cuomo, who described the truck attack as a failed effort to scare and terrorize people, reiterated that he felt like responses such as Trump's were not the right way to react. You play into the hands of the terrorists to the extent you disrupt and divide and frighten people in this society, he said. As the sun rose over New York on Wednesday, the bike path remained blocked off by police tape between Houston and Chambers Streets. Dozens of police officers guarded the perimeter while crime scene investigators wearing white suits slowly searched the length of the path. Police closed streets Wednesday around the area near the West Side Highway. Authorities stand near a damaged Home Depot truck after a motorist drove onto a bike path near the World Trade Center Memorial, striking and killing several people on October 31, 2017, in New York. AP photo, Bebeto Matthews. Saipov, who had been living in New Jersey, rented the Home Depot truck there before driving into Manhattan. Officials said his rampage down the path continued until he eventually collided with a school bus, injuring more people, at which point he emerged from the truck. According to the police narrative, a stream of 911 calls soon came in reporting the injuries, the bus accident, and a man with a gun in the street. Officer Ryan Nash, who was at a nearby school for an unrelated call, approached Saipov and shot him in the abdomen. The weapons Saipov were brandishing turned out to be a pellet gun and a paintball gun, police said. Dilnoza Abdusamatova said that when Saipov moved to the United States, he stayed with her family in Cincinnati for his first 2 weeks in the country because their fathers were friends. Abdusamatova, 24, said Saipov then moved to Florida to start a trucking company. Her family members think he got married about a year after arriving in the United States and may now have 2 children. Around that time, she said, he cut off contact with them. He stopped talking to us when he got married. Abdusamatova said. Uber said Saipov had been a driver from the service. Thaw was banned from the app in the wake of the attack. Passed the Uber background check. According to the company, Uber is reviewing Saipov's history as a driver, and so far it has not identified any worrisome safety reports, company officials said. At the bike path in New York, 2 men holding coffee cups approached the line, police tape early Wednesday. I don't see what happened, one said. You don't know what happened. Yesterday, someone drive a truck into people, the other said. Did people die? Yeah, said the man. People died. Barrett and Berman reported from Washington. Sarah Kaplan, Monica Hess, Philip Bump in New York, John Silman in Tampa, and Brian Murphy, Julie Tate, Ellen Nakashima, Jennifer Jenkins, and Rachel Siegel in Washington contributed to this report, which will be updated throughout the day.